Hi, everybody. You are listening to Judging Meghan with your host, Meghan Judge. I don't even really know how to say this today because it's pretty much the thrill of a lifetime to be able to do this. I'm on my 5th year, believe it or not, of recording the podcast. So you all, my listeners, have been listening to me for 5 years of my life. So you've been with me for a lot of probably not great things and a lot of really great memories and a lot of really great guests. So I'm so fortunate to do what I do and I love it. And so I thought nothing better than to have my second parents, because I've called you that for all these years, the Ellises, come on, Bruce and Donna Ellis. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Meghan, my little daughter.
Okay, so I'm going to say this for my listeners if we release this, because we still might not, but I want the Ellis kids that are like my siblings and their grandchildren and everyone to know that my life, and I incorporate Julie throughout the podcast for years and years. My listeners know Julie was my best friend. I call her my soulmate. I have signs from her almost on a daily basis sometimes. Right now there's monarch butterflies everywhere, and that's always been my sign. She's with me. But in my hardest period of my life, which was, and not to get emotional in the very beginning, but just get ready for it, everybody. I lost my dad at 13. And so I remember my dad we had met at Country Glen Pool. So it was one of the pools that like a neighborhood pool, and we had a swim meet. And so I met you, Bruce, when I was probably like 10 years old, and Julie and I were at the swim meet together. That was the first time we met, but we didn't really become friends then. We just met in passing because you knew my dad from growing up. So I remember I lost my dad, my listeners know, at 13. And the very next day, I don't know if you remember this story. I was walking around the court, like the little center of Congressional Country Club. And this giant Lincoln town car comes pulling around the circle, and I'll never forget it. And it's you. And you roll down the window and you say, "Are you Johnny Judge's little girl?" And I said, yeah. And it was the very next day because my mom needed to drop us off at the club so we just could get out of the house and have an escape, right? And so I said, yes. And he said, "This is Julie." And down goes the window, and all of the Ellis girls were in the backseat, and they were probably all going to Barbizon, which was this local modeling school. I don't know where you were headed. And that is the first time I met Julie. I met my best friend the very next day. And then you guys were just stuck with me. I don't know if you remember that, but you were stuck with me.
It was good. It was always fun. It was always rambunctious with you and the girls, and especially with Julie. You kids never were able to be quiet. You're always talking, always telling stories, and somewhat getting in trouble in your later years as well.
Yes,
but
we were.
Go into that, Meghan.
We will go into that. So I just wanted to start the episode by saying, I don't know, and I might get emotional, how much you both mean to me and how wonderful I think you both are. So I just want to leave it at that and try to pull myself together, because this is truly an honor for me. And if you ever are able to talk to people that have had such an impact in your life and do something like this, I'm so lucky to have this platform to be able to do it. So thank you for doing this.
We're honored, Meghan, that
Thank you, Meghan.
Would do that for us.
Of course. Okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot with some fun things right now. Okay.
Good.
Mm-hmm. So I know, and I've heard from a little birdie how you both met. And I would love to know the story of how you both met.
Wow. Was it a good story, Donna? Or after 56 years, was it a good story?
It was
a secret.
Yes.
No. I was stationed at Dover Air Force Base as a club officer there, and Donna was working at Geico. And one of my brother's friends, her brother, worked with Donna at Geico. And so I called Chip and I said, hey, Chip, I said, I'm in Dover. I'm coming in. I'm going to school at Fort Lee. I said, I'm stopping in Washington. Can you get me a date? And evidently, he got Donna in the cafeteria and got her up out of a chair and said, turn around. He checked her out and he said, okay, she's good for Bruce. So I had a date. So I had a date that weekend. And 56 later, we're still dating.
So you've been together for 56 years. You both grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And then, Donna, you grew up on a farm. Am I wrong?
I did in Wheaton, Maryland.
Okay. So Wheaton, Maryland's outside D.C. for my listeners and for everyone.
I see. Okay.
And then tell me about the time. I don't know if this is true, but did Bruce fall into his face? Did he fall flat into a pile of horse manure?
Oh, yes. We had a place, my folks had a place, actually, and that's what we always went to and collected all of our thoughts and whatever. And I come to find out that this man that I'm supposed to enjoy down the road fell right into a pile of the wrong stuff. And he jumped over the white fence and tripped and landed in this pile of...
And it's because the fence was rotten and I fell over the top rung and into the cow pile, but that was not as bad as Donna and her mother came out. It knocked the wind out of me. I couldn't breathe. And I was like,
But do you think you deserve that? Because that's one of my favorite stories I've ever heard. There's been times in my life I wish you would fall into a pile of cow manure.
Really?
I'm joking. I'm joking. I love that story. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you now a little bit about your kids. Like, so you ended up getting married. You've been together for 56 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is remarkable. And the fact that, Donna, you put up with him for that many years, I don't even know how you did that. So you deserve a medal. Yeah. So tell me, go ahead.
There was 1 year sabbatical where I was rotating back from Southeast Asia, and we went to Dover and went to Grand Forks, North Dakota Air Force Base in a trailer on the trim pad of the B-52s. That's where she got pregnant. So we took a year off, and she started there, and then we had, of course, the 3 other daughters. And certainly Julie was a big part of the family, but we got 4 wonderful daughters, all different personalities, all lovely ladies.
Yeah, so they do. They all the Ellis sisters have some interesting personalities, and I can say that because they're like sisters to me. Yes. So tell me, when you were stationed in the Air Force, you went overseas? Did you go to Vietnam? I've never heard that story.
Yeah, I went to Vietnam. I graduated from college, went to OTS in Lackland, volunteered because you're gung-ho after you come out of the training, and volunteered for Vietnam. Got my wishes, went over there. They'd blown up the club, killed the club officer. I took his place, rebuilding it, and all of a sudden the wing commander calls me in and says, you've been transferred. And I thought, oh boy, I'm going up country now. He says, you're going to Karat. I said, Karat, where is that, General? He goes, Karat, Thailand. He says, you know how lucky you are. So I did. I got transferred to Karat, Thailand, spent the last 6 months there, and then came home and started the family.
Donna, was that scary? I mean, I think about what that would be like, for young mothers. And back then, people had kids so young. You're still a kid. Like, my mom started having kids at 21, which is, you're still a baby back then. Yeah. And the amount of stress that people went through, wondering, during that war, how horrific it was for people. That must have been a really difficult time.
It was difficult, and it was difficult twice over, because originally we were all allowed, we meaning me and other women that were also allowed to. There
was a time when the women were allowed to go to Thailand, where the spouses were allowed to go to Thailand, but they cut all that out.
Yeah, so we were there, or I was there, when that all occurred.
And that was a time where there were no telephones, there was no internet. I never called back for a year, but we wrote a lot of letters, and I sent a lot of little princess rings back to Donna and her friends, but it was a great experience. I loved it. I wouldn't trade it in for anything, and it was a hardship for a year, but it all worked out.
And also back then, I think there's so many people that served, and I think it's an important reminder for what people sacrifice for our country, right? I mean, especially the people that were lost family members, or, there's so much respect that I think has been forgotten for all of the people that served in Vietnam and served to save our country.
My high school class, we lost almost a quarter.
Yeah.
Quarter of them died. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a reason. They say I believe, even though people get angry when you say there's a reason why everything happens, we'll never know. I say that all the time. Well, why has this happened? Why did these horrible things happen? And we really won't know until we hopefully make it to heaven, right? Why this, why that? Yep. And it used to bother me so much when people would say, well, everything happens for a reason. And I would get so angry. But as I've gotten older and kind of come out of things, I've realized that they're right. It's just, I think, the way that you say it, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So let me ask you, so then you start having kids, and your first is Sherry. And right. Sherry, if you're listening, you know that I love you dearly. But God, I need to know how Sherry was as a kid, because Sherry is your wild one, right?
Yeah, she was the wild child, yes, and she still is, sort of, yes.
Yeah, and they all came out differently. So Sherry's the oldest, and then there's Andrea, who is in the room right now. So I can't say the mean things I really wanted to say about her.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I hear you, Meghan.
Oh. And then and so Andrea. We had a lot of fun growing up with Andrea, and Julie was my best friend who came along next. And we would just tease each other all the time and play pranks, especially on Andrea, who I know is listening. And then vice versa, she would do it back to us. Right, Andrea?
Well, I tried to keep up with you.
Hard to keep up with Meghan.
Okay, and then, so we'll get back to talking about Julie, but then one of my favorite stories and my favorite people are Christiane. So Christiane was born on Christmas, correct?
He sure was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was a to remember.
And then tell me about the fact that I know that you wanted 4 kids. And I'm guessing that you were like my dad, Bruce, where you kept having kids because you were hoping to get the boy, and you ended up with a bunch of girls, right?
Yeah, we did, but it took a bribe to get the...
I heard. Okay, so tell me, what was the bribe?
Well, I was working at the company doing some crazy hours and working weekends. Which was Ridgewell's, right?
Yeah.
And so I told Donna, I said, well, I think we ought to have another child. We're going to have a boy. I said, really? She said, yep, I'm taking all the precautions. We're going to do everything. We're going to do the tests to make sure. I said, all right. So I said, but then if we have another baby, boy or girl, I'm going to get my Corvette. She goes, we'll see. So the next day I get in a shoebox a miniature Corvette model. So I knew we were in. So I got a call one afternoon. She says, come home. So I came home. We had another baby, but it was a girl. And thank God it was Christiane, because it could have been a bad boy, but Christiane is the sweetest ever. So we were lucky.
She is. And I love that she's born on Christmas, because it's pretty special. And also we're going to go into Ridgewell. So if listeners are listening to this, growing up in Washington, D.C., which is a really special place to grow up. I talk about it a lot on the podcast. Tell me about Ridgewell's. Like, how did that start? It was a family business, correct?
Yep. My grandfather started Charlie Ridgewell's in 1924. And then my father started dating my mother, who was a Ridgewell, married her, bought the business from my grandfather, ran it for 20-some years. And then when my brother and I were both in the service and out of the service, we went into the business with my dad and ran it for about 20 years. and sold it in 1984. We were very, very lucky to sell it because we were going to expand it. And then things didn't work out. So we got involved in about 4 or 5 other businesses that worked out well, and some died a natural death. But all in all, it was a good move. And Bridgewell's an exciting company. We did everything you can possibly imagine.
Bridgewell's was a giant catering company and very well known in Washington. Did all the didn't you cater for a lot of the presidentials?
We did
balls and that kind of stuff.
We did the POW dinner at the White House on the South Lawn in a tent. These soldiers would come back, some of them in wheelchairs, and they would lay down burlap rows so they could get to their tables. And it's about 800 people seated, French service dinner. And I had goosebumps on me the whole night long. It was a fantastic affair. And then we did the POW, and we did the Begin Sadat peace signing dinner, the same kind of an affair at the South Lawn. So, and then embassies, we did the embassies, we did bar mitzvahs, bas mitzvahs, weddings, funerals, you name it.
Then we can't leave this off because this is the girls talking now. And what we have here is we have Jeffrey, who's Bruce's twin brother.
Yeah.
And Lady Di dancing on the floor.
Oh, do you have a picture of that? That's pretty cool.
You
do not have a picture?
No.
Oh, he must have been in heaven.
Oh, I tell you what.
It was in the rotunda of the Capitol.
Yeah.
It was one of her visits. It was pretty neat.
It was really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, very genuine.
And your parents, I mean, I remember Fifi, your mom. I don't remember your dad, but I do remember, and I remember your mom and dad. Mm-hmm. They were so special. They were such great people. Can you tell me a little bit about them?
They were very conservative, I would say. Mm-hmm. And yet, this is where we include the Bridgewell boys because they have great sense of humor. Well, so does my dad. So it's fun to see the intricacy of being part of the group, and then others times back away and help with the group. Really,
they were special people, and Fifi too. Right?
And she
was the brainiac. She did all the investing. She did all stocks and bonds and got newsletters. One newsletter would say buy, another newsletter would say sell. And she put all those together, make up her own mind. And she did very well in the stock market as well as help run the business. She'd send out bills by hand. It was quite something. My father was a salesman. He was like a gentle giant. He was a wonderful man, as kind as he could be to everybody, and everybody loved him. Everybody loved my dad.
Yeah,
it makes me think because there's like a secret sauce or like something really special. And again, like nobody's family is perfect, right? No parents are perfect. You don't want to be in my house this afternoon when my daughter gets home. There'll probably be a lot of yelling. But what I loved and I felt so happy being a part of is what great parents you were to your kids. And I saw that firsthand. I mean, I would come over and there was just a lot of laughing and a lot of happiness in your house. And Donna, I don't know if you remember, but one of our favorite things was we would sit, Julie and I, around the table with you, and Christiane would sometimes come in, or Andrea, and we would just sit there and chat. And you would tell us about, all the different, like what's going on with the boys now. And we just sat there and we would have so much fun, and you would make us snacks, but you were a part of it. And that's what made you, what I idolized about your family and looked up to so much, is that I was made to feel like I was part of your family, and it was a very special family. So
What Don and I decided that we would do is make sure we have dinner. Whenever I was home, we had dinner. We all sat down. We all ate together. We all traded stories together. Andre would feed the dog under the table.
Brandy.
I'm hungry too.
Yeah, she got hungry.
Yes, thank you.
And then I would say, thank you in advance for doing the dishes, Sherry. That was Sherry's night to do the dishes. And then one night I said, after dinner, I said, thank you very much for doing the dishes to Andrea. She said, no. I said, what do you mean, no? She said, no. I said, well, you're going to stay here. I said, matter of fact, you're going to say, what did I say, Andrea? I said, may I please get up, sir?
That was what it was. I had no problem with the dishes.
Oh, it was that. That's what it was. I said, because she got a little snotty with me. I said, okay, you say, may I please get up, sir? Well, she wouldn't do it. I said, you're going to sleep here tonight. So I had one of the kids go up and get a pillow and put it down on the table. I said, you can rest right here. So she finally said, excuse me. That was her answer. So I let her go.
Don't you feel like Andrea they all had such different personalities, but Andrea, and I know you're listening right now, was probably like the most rebellious, or maybe was that Sherry? Sherry was. And then Andrea, what do you think? I would love to know the answer to that.
Way off on this one, man.
I'll tell you what, I've heard so many stories. Now that all the kids are grown up, it's amazing the stories that come out. So when we were gone, we would go every year on our anniversary to Bermuda for a week without fail. Donna loved it. I loved it. That's where we went. We took the kids a bunch of times too. But anyway, where was I going with this?
We're going to talk about probably some of the parties that Sherry.
Oh, yeah. The stories come out, right? Number one party giver of all people who I didn't think was Christiane.
Oh,
yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah, it is shocking, isn't it? Christiane. And then I think Andrea didn't have many. Andrea was a little goody-goody two-shoes. I think.
I will say this remark, and that is that you would come in from school and get your homework done immediately, and then you would be finished.
Andrea was our academic person.
She was the academic person.
She was good.
Well, Andrea was the one that we loved to play pranks on, because Sherry was not home all the time because she was at college. She was, away. Yeah. But Andrea, when Julie and I were in high school, just a few years older, so we would just love to play pranks on Andrea. So let me ask you this, a little shift, because there were so many happy times in your life. And I just want you to know that how much it meant to me to be a part of that. Because for me, I had gone through such a horrific loss of losing my dad. And I talk a lot about that on the podcast. And then to be in a house with an abusive stepfather. So I went from being in a really happy household with a great father who was funny, and you knew my dad. He was just amazing. And we had a lot of laughter, and we sat at the table together. And then when I lost my dad, that didn't happen anymore. So it was a reminder when I would go to your house that I was always there, because I also went away to boarding school. So when I would come home from breaks, I would just basically go to your house. And so I'm going to talk about Julie. So Julie, for my listeners, I talk a lot about her. She is, I think, always around me. We talk about her being, I think, an angel and just the most amazing person I've ever known in my life. But she was tragically lost very young. And so I know that forever will change the trajectory of somebody's life. And like I said, you go from this really happy household, right, to having to deal with the loss of Julie, who was incredible. Can you tell me a little bit, and the listeners or your kids or your grandkids, you don't have to go into detail, but just the grieving process of that, of what it was like and how you were able to because I think grieving is part of life. We all are sent to this planet. I say all the time, I think I'm spiritual, gives us a series of tests, and we go through the tests of life, and then hopefully we make it to the other side. So I would love your thoughts on that.
And Julie and we all attended church, and I think that was a nice breather, so to speak, to be able to assure everyone that we were okay, because a lot of times you might weave around a whole lot just to try to find a group of people who can tolerate some of the sadness also. And
Yeah.
a lot of things we did too, because we had a little bird, I think, that's on the back fence that we thought
Cardinal.
a cardinal that was.
That's a sign.
We've got
Yeah.
butterflies. We had the cardinal.
Yeah.
Well, that there's specific signs, you know that. Like cardinal is very, very common as a sign of that they're coming.
You know,
yeah.
just to go forward just a little after the funeral, and with so many good friends that sent so many flowers and balloons and everything to the house. We had, 30 or 40 balloons after everything was over and everybody was out of the house. And I said, we're just going to put this up, let it go for Julie. And we tied the bunch together real tight. And I went out to the circle in front of the house, and there were a bunch of big old pine trees up behind the house. It was like a field goal. And the wind was blowing west. I said, well, let's release these balloons now. So I released them, and they all went up, and they all started going over the house, except for one balloon. One balloon split and went east. And so I told Father John about it, a very good friend, Father John. And he said to me, he said, listen, he said, don't look for signs, but he said, don't ignore them either. And that really resonated with me. And it's true. Every time I see a cardinal, I think of Julie. Every single time I think of Julie. It's amazing. It's amazing. But we had so many good friends to help us through it. We had a religion to help us through it. It's just something you got to work through. And we know she's with God, that's for sure. She was too good and too sweet, too nice. And her son Logan has turned into a great young guy. Chris, Logan's dad, is doing wonderful. He's a great guy. We see him every once in a while. We see Logan, talk to Logan a lot. He's a real chatterbox.
He looks just like her too.
He does. He's got big broad shoulders.
Spitting image of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was, I mean, I talk about her all the time. So just so you know, I will tell you this. I've never seen her, but again, my listeners know. There's her picture. Yeah. Look at her. She was just gorgeous. Gorgeous.
She is gorgeous.
Physically beautiful. Biggest smile I've ever seen. Yes. But just the most kind.
Yeah.
She was
and
also
special person.
Well, all the girls are special in their own way. When you lose somebody, it makes them more special.
Yes, it does. But I mean, I talk a lot about the butterflies. Sometimes during COVID, I was going through a really hard time. I don't know if I've told you this. And I was at the bottom of this giant hill that I would walk because we were in lockdown, so couldn't do anything. And I was just in a really dark place. And this butterfly, like sometimes they'll come up right to me. Yeah. And this butterfly came right up to me and went all the way up this giant hill with me. Just flew right next to my head. And your friend Meghan has now lost her marbles enough to see a butterfly and sometimes talk to them. So you see me walking up this giant hill, talking to the monarch butterfly, and it just went all the way up the hill with me.
It's
so
great.
there's just been so many things. And I love what you say about not ignoring the signs, because I've been doing this 5 years. I've probably had the majority of my episodes are about grief or loss. And there are so many stories about people sharing like things that there's no way that could be true. You know, like Andrea was just in California visiting last year, and Andrea can hear it right now. And I was leaving the farmer's market in downtown Manhattan Beach where I live. And I walked around a corner and she was right in front of me. And what are the chances of that happening? You know, that she's going to be in my town, knew I lived in LA, but didn't know where, was on a girls' trip, and we walked right into each other. And then we were talking about Julie, and I said, I got in my car. I can't remember the song that came on now, but it was a song that's always reminding me of Julie. There's a couple of them. And so I got in my car, and right when I got in my car after I saw her, the song came on. And it's not a song that would come on the radio. It's kind of an older song. I think it's a Beatles song. And then the next day I told her about it because we went to dinner. And then the next day she and her friends went into a store and the exact same song came on.
Oh, geez.
What was the name of it, Meghan?
I think it was like that Beatles song, In My Life, right? It was one of those songs that the one that I sang at Christian's wedding. So I think it was that, but I could be wrong. It was something like that, but the chances of that happening are so slim.
Yeah.
So that's why I say all the time, really look for the signs because they're there. And I like to say they're just in the next room. She's just in the next room. We just can't see her. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of move on. So tell me, we talked a little bit about grief and all of that, but I would love to know how you were, you talk about moving on in spirituality. So if there's one thing that you really learned from, if you were listening to this and you had gone through a loss, is there something that you tell yourself or talk to God or anything, like piece of advice that you could give your grandchildren or something to help them in their hard times in life?
Well, you talk to butterflies. I talk to Julie.
Yeah.
Golf. And
golf. And if I'm playing golf and there's no one to play with and I go out by myself, I talk to Julie. I talk to my brother. I talk to my mom and dad. I think it's very cathartic. I think it's a good tool. It's sad, but you're able to communicate and you're able to get something off your chest. You're able to feel the spirit of someone even though they're not there. It works for me.
Do you talk to her too, Donna?
I probably don't talk to her. I would probably have a story or so to tell.
Yeah.
That's the case.
Yeah.
So I would tune into that and be able to go away with that repeating itself for the rest of the time that I would have it. Yeah.
She just loved you. I mean, there were so many times that, she was also not as well behaved as you all. I've told you stories about some of the things we would do, but I always joke that she was the angel on the shoulder and I was the devil, and we would sneak out and we would do all kinds of things we weren't supposed to do. But she loved you, Donna, and she would always tell me things about, oh, I'm just so worried about my mom, and she worried about things that most kids, like she was very smart for our age, if that makes sense. Like we lost her in our 20s, late 20s, but she was wise in a way that she knew things that were beyond her years, if that makes sense. Like most kids don't spend their time worrying about their parents or worrying about, things like I'll never forget. And I'm just going to tell this quick story. We lived at the beach one summer. Mm-hmm. And when I tell you I was a nightmare, Andrea, you can pipe in at any time. I was pretty bad. And that summer, I got a job at the lighthouse. So I got to wear this really cute outfit, and Julie got the job too late. So she had to work at the Rusty Rudder and wear like a suit, like a waiter's outfit. And so we all lived, it was Allison Bigelow, myself, Christy Weschler, and Julie, and we lived in this house. And I was just a nightmare all summer. I was like spending, I would buy everything. I was never good with I was a nightmare. I was always getting into things I shouldn't have. And Julie was always like, Meghan, do you really want to do that? Maybe you should rethink this. She worked the whole summer. She would come after her shift in her ugly waiter uniform and be like, coming over, and we'd be in these like cute fitted outfits, and she'd be like, okay, I'm going to go back home, change, and come back out. at the end of the summer, guess how much money I saved to go back to college? $0. I was probably even negative. And Julie sent me this card. I've talked about this before. You all used to go to Duck, North Carolina for the summer every summer at the end of the summer. I'm still mad you never invited me, but it's fine. I was probably back at boarding school or was, I was in college at the time. And I got this letter in the mail, and it was a card. And on the front of the card was a hippo. I've told you this before, a hippo and a bird, like a teeny tiny little bird. And the card said something like, I'm so sorry for how awful I was this summer. This was from Julie. And meanwhile, I was the one that was awful. She was not awful. I was the one that was awful. I'm so glad we're best friends, like this whole great card. And then at the very end, it said something like, P.S. You're the hippo. So that's the kind of stuff we would always have to one up each other at all times.
Who broke whose toe?
Who what?
Who broke whose toe?
I broke her toe, but that's a separate story. But really quickly, so at the end of the summer in this card, so then we talked, and she said, she saved all summer, all of the money, and she paid you back. I don't know if you remember that.
She paid me back for what?
She paid you back for like letting her live in the house, like renting the rent from the house for the whole summer. She actually saved money and paid you back. I don't know if you remember that. And so that kind of goes back to what kind of person she was.
You remember that? $100.
Oh, that was it.
She had such good morals. And yeah, she was no saint. Like we all got in trouble and did stupid things, but she always did things like that. And she always cared. And so, yes, I'll say this quickly. We lifeguarded together at Congressional for a summer, and we raced to a lifeguard chair because I wanted to go see my crush, Brendan Fry. Hi, Brendan, if you're listening. And she raced me to the pool to get the better lifeguard chair because I wanted to sit across the pool from Brendan Fry, who was lifeguarding on the other side. Obviously, I was not going to be watching the kids. I would probably be watching him the whole time. And she raced me just to, that's what we did, and broke her toe.
I remember.
Her toe was broken. She was pretty mad at me for a while after that. Yeah, because it ruined the whole summer.
I got the call to come pick her up. She wasn't that happy.
She was not, but we had lots of things like that. But the whole point of my story is what kind of person she was. And I would like to kind of pivot, but there's so many great stories about her that I couldn't even put them all into an episode because she was just this amazing person. So going back a little bit, because I know I'm kind of skipping around, we talk a little bit about the loss of Julie, and then you were able to kind of turn to spirituality, and then a few years after that, sadly lost your brother, which was really horrifically awful. For people that are listening, or your grandkids, your kids, that's to the point where it's like, why? We talked a lot about like everything happens for a reason. How were you able to kind of get out of that period? And I know that grief lasts a lifetime, by the way. So you're still grieving. You'll be grieving. We'll all be grieving for the rest of our lives. But to have like a punch like that, right? I would love to kind of talk about Jeff. And Jeff, by the way, was Bruce's twin brother, identical,
Absolutely.
right?
And I think this is what's made the difference in how I grieve for my brother. He had 2 14-hour back operations after he had fallen on his boat. And the back part or the upper part never seated properly, the lower part. So he was in constant pain. So he was on all this crazy medicine for the pain. And he got sick of it. And I know why he got sick of it. He just wasn't himself. So he went totally off of it. And that was the crisis. Plus, he did not want to be a burden to his family. And that's why he took his life. And I'm not saying it was what he should have done, but I do understand why, especially since he was my identical twin brother. But the minute I got that call at home, he was in Florida, and then I got that call, I put the phone down, I said, Don, I can't talk. He said, this is officer, and I knew exactly what happened. I knew exactly what happened.
Well, because you were identical twins, you probably felt it, right?
We had so much ESP during our life, and all the stories that relate to being identical twin. It's almost spooky sometimes. But we were very tight, very close. Worked in the business for 18 years. Got involved in 4 businesses that he started. He was a wonderful guy, a big, huge creator. He created different things that people are now using, which is a big, big deal, like home delivery of groceries, the internet, all the things that he thought about earlier on were his ideas, but he was too early, which is a shame. But anyway, that was my brother, and he did a great job at Ridgewell's. He was our front man. I was sort of the back man, back of the house. He was front of the house. But it all worked out great, and we enjoyed it. It was a fascinating run. We enjoyed all of it, except for the time we had to spend away from the families, which was atrocious.
Well, part of my platform is mental health. I mean, it's the biggest part of my platform, and suicide prevention. So I know the pain of I don't understand, unless you're an identical twin specifically, and all the stories of, that I've heard over the years of how close you were and best friends. My heart is always with somebody that has to deal with something that tragic. And I think it goes back to the crisis of mental health in our country and being able to talk through things, and how that's something that we truly, truly need. Right. And
I agree.
But the physical struggle of not being in so much pain. And I think this is a very common struggle that people don't talk about. Donna, what was it like for you? Because it was like a second punch, right? You lived both of you lived this life of, you were lucky, you were successful, you lived in a beautiful house, you had beautiful kids, and then it was to lose Julie, and then for Bruce to lose his best friend and his brother so close together. I know that you really rallied to be together and are true partners, which is something most people do not have, a love for 56 years and a best friend like you guys do, right?
Well, they do say when you lose children that you got 50% chance that marriage not working because of it. But there was no way that was going to happen. I mean, it's a tragedy and you cope with it, but you don't throw your life away because of it.
And you still had work to do. You still have kids that need you, and grandkids, and all the great things. This is the time to enjoy them. What?
This is the time to enjoy them.
Exactly. And golfing, right? What would you do without the golf course?
Gosh, I'd have to spend more time with Donna.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
for me.
Yeah.
It's like a form of therapy, though. I say that a lot. I mean, for me, it's being outside is one of the greatest gifts that we're given, especially if you're struggling with grief or loss or any of those things. For you, it's a golf course. For me, I live at the beach, so it's walking outside by the ocean. I mean, I'm like you. I talk to Julie all the time. And I think that we're all going to go through periods in our life where there's no guarantees, right? So it's just a matter of time till something else happens.
Yep.
For the sake of time, I would love to know something happy. Like, tell me about, there's 56 years of life together. Are there what are you, like, one or two of your happiest memories that your kids and your grandkids and people can learn about?
Well, since we had gone to,
Bermuda.
Bermuda. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking?
That's what I was thinking.
Amazing.
That's why you're still together. You're starting to get ESP with Donna now, right?
Yes, oh yes.
But we had the wide open spaces, obviously, and when we went to Bermuda, I sort of got in the urge, and I don't know whether one of you kids or whether dad or whatever, that we were going to Bermuda and staying in the place that we always stood. We always had this great place that was right on the water, and they came in at early breakfast, and it was we were very spoiled with that. But we kept that for when you kids came down, and it was just so great because it was like home down there, and it was also like having the kids in, and it was fun of them driving one of the mopeds that
all over
that we didn't really want them to use, but we didn't want to give them the thought that it was something they couldn't do. So we kept that in the fire, make sure that it stayed on.
But there was one night, if you remember, one night we had dinner up in the dining room, the six of us. And I think it was an anniversary. It might have been our 25th. No, it couldn't have been our 25th. It was some anniversary of something, I forget. And the kids brought us an album. And we were all going.
After. That was.
No, all the kids were there. All the kids were there. And we closed the place down. We had such a great time. And then we came home, and we were in Annapolis. We went to this restaurant. And this lady came over to me, and she said, "Weren't you just in Bermuda with your children?" I said, "Yes." She goes, "I want to let you know, we were all very, very jealous of what you all were doing at that table. You were having such a good time." And it really was.
Yeah.
And we've had many, many, many great times with the kids, especially, like you mentioned earlier, going to the Outer Banks or going to Nag's Head. Now we seem to have spread out to Florida, and Andrea's down there with us, and Tommy and the kids in our unit. Christiane comes down, and Sherry's been down with her friends, and it just life is good. I mean, there's no life that's perfect. Needless to say, we've gone through our bumps. You've gone through your bumps. Everybody goes through bumps. It's how you handle it that is very important.
Do you think that humor? Sorry to talk over you, but humor is key.
Yes.
Lots of teasing and laughing, and even in the hard times, the humor that I feel like so fortunate that I would always be able to come and laugh and make fun of each other, like tease each other, right? And there was a lot of that in your family.
That just shows you love
and still is, yeah.
It shows you love each other. It really does. I mean, who are you gonna poke fun at if you don't like them? Unless it's really bad fun.
Yeah.
No,
what do you think? What do you think is your legacy? What is something that you're the most proud of?
The children, the wife, and my whole life, however it was involved, all the ingredients that go into making a life. Good God put us on earth, gave me a beautiful identical twin, wonderful parents, great wife, wonderful children. But boy, I can't think of anything. Well, I can think of two things I'd change, but that wasn't in the cards. So I really am appreciative of everything that our family has worked for. I've worked in one way. Donna's worked in another way with her kids. The daughters have worked in their ways with their children and their kids. It's all good.
I love it. Do you have any questions for me, your other daughter? I'm your honorary child.
I want to know some of the stories that I shouldn't have heard. Oh,
God, there's too many. There's too many stories that you should have heard. There's too many. Andrea is there, but I can remember just so many like funny pranks, just things that we did that I would go to your house. And that's what I miss. You know, when you love somebody so much that you can laugh, and you laugh so hard that you cry.
Yeah.
And I say that all the time. It's like, I miss that because I've never found that again.
That's a shame.
Yeah. But it's okay because, you know, whenever I see you all, it's always, we pick up where we left off. Right.
True.
But I always know if I'm going to see Andrea, she's going to say something to make fun of me. She's very successful at that. Or Christiane, you know, or Sherry for that matter. Your family is just incredible. So I love that as we go through life, they say you can't take it with you, right? You were very fortunate in business and very fortunate to have a lot of nice things throughout your life. But it's true. The one piece of your legacy in general for everyone should be family. It should be friends. That's what makes life worth it.
Sure.
And that means the good and the bad. So I am just so incredibly proud to know you both. And I honestly cannot thank you enough for what you have done for me in my life, because I'll never forget it.
It was our pleasure, Meghan. You added a great dimension to our life as well. Believe me.
Right.
You have a belt that's mine.
I took a belt. I probably did. Anytime you would buy clothes for Julie, I was always wearing them the next day. Or the time, this is funny, I'll end it with this. Julie and Christiane would, in our pranks, one time we used to play this game called Taste Test, and I would come into your kitchen and we'd go in the pantry and we'd take out all these foods and make each other eat them. And it was always something really disgusting, like dog food or something, tease each other. And one day I was up in the bathroom in your house and I said, "Oh, I forgot my toothbrush. Do you have one?" And Julie said, "Yeah, use this one." And then then I remember walking out and Julie and Christiane and Andrea might even have been there, or Sherry, I don't know who it was, were crying, laughing. And I said, "What's so funny?" And they said, "That's Brandy's toothbrush." So Brandy is the dog. So I brushed my teeth with Brandy's toothbrush.
Oh, God, I do remember that, Meghan.
Yeah. Like anything that they could do to try and get my goat or vice versa, it was done.
It was just paybacks, Meghan.
It was just paybacks. Well, I love you both so much. I'm so grateful that we did this today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You're a sweetheart, Meghan. Thank you.
Very, wouldn't add a thing to this. We can open up.
Well, I love you. And I love you too, Andrea. I know you're on the side and you won't be on camera. So I'm going to end it with this. Keep going. You matter. Your story matters.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.